Hey everyone, and welcome to the deep dive. We're diving into something kind of interesting today, the link between mindfulness and a better sex life.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, right. We're going to be looking at this book by Dr. Lori Brotto, Better Sex Through Mindfulness, and it's really fascinating stuff. It goes way beyond just, giving you a few techniques or something like that. We're really going to get into like the nitty-gritty of how mindfulness can like actually change your experience.
Yeah, Dr. Brotto really gets into the why behind it all. She connects mindfulness to a better sex life by really exploring the science and how it impacts our minds and bodies.
That's cool, but I think a lot of people, when they hear mindfulness, they think of like someone meditating on a mountaintop or something. You know what I mean? How does that translate to the bedroom?
That's a really great question. And it might surprise you, but mindfulness isn't just about, finding inner peace in a quiet place. It's really about developing a heightened awareness of your body and your emotions wherever you are. And without judgment.
Without judgment.
Yeah. And like you can imagine, bringing that kind of awareness into the bedroom can be a total game changer.
So it's less about being like totally zen and more about really connecting with like your physical and emotional experience in the moment.
Exactly. And what's really cool is that there's actually a lot of research that backs this up. Dr. Brotto talks about these studies that show mindfulness can actually increase desire and arousal.
Wait, really? So just by like paying attention to the present moment, we can actually boost our libido. Okay, you've got my attention.
Right. It might seem counterintuitive, but when you think about it, it makes sense. Like, how many times have you been in the mood and then anxiety and all these negative thoughts just totally kill the vibe? Mindfulness can help quiet those mental distractions so you can actually experience pleasure.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like worrying about work or, whatever happened earlier in the day, or even just like stressing about how you look. Yeah, it definitely gets in the way.
And it gets even more interesting. Mindfulness practice can actually change your brain activity in areas related to pleasure and sensory awareness.
Whoa, wait a minute. So you're telling me mindfulness can rewire our brains to experience more pleasure? Tell me more.
Okay, so studies using brain imaging have shown that mindfulness practices like meditation can actually increase activity in the insula. That's like your brain's pleasure center. It helps you become more aware of those good sensations.
So we're basically strengthening our pleasure center by being mindful.
Yeah, you got it. And Dr. Brotto goes even deeper into some other fascinating brain regions too. She talks about the prefrontal cortex, which helps us regulate emotions and make decisions. By calming that anxiety and worry and boosting the areas connected to pleasure, mindfulness is kind of like creating the perfect mental environment for a really great sexual experience.
Okay, this is all sounding amazing, but how does this work in practice? Like, what are some of the things Dr. Brotto suggests we actually do?
Well, Dr. Brotto offers a bunch of techniques, and they're surprisingly easy to incorporate into your daily life, even if you're a beginner. One of the simplest but most effective techniques is mindful breathing.
I've heard of that. It's just focusing on your breath, right? What makes it so special?
Well, it's more than just taking a few deep breaths. It's about consciously tuning in to the physical sensations of each inhale and exhale, noticing the way the air moves through your body. It helps ground you in the present and reduces stress. And it really helps you focus on your physical sensations, which is essential for a fulfilling sexual experience.
So it's like an anchor, bringing you back to the present moment.
Yeah, exactly. It's about cultivating presence and awareness. Another technique Dr. Brotto talks about is the body scan. Have you ever tried a body scan meditation?
I can't say that I have. What does that involve?
So a body scan involves mentally scanning your body, like from head to toe. You pay attention to any sensations you feel, warmth, tingling, tension, relaxation. It's a great way to become more aware of your physical self, and it can really help with self-acceptance.
That sounds really helpful, especially for people who have body image issues or feel uncomfortable during intimacy.
Absolutely. It's about cultivating self-acceptance and appreciating your body for everything it can do. And then there's mindful touching.
Mindful touching. Okay, now you're really intriguing me.
So mindful touching can be practiced alone or with a partner, and it's all about exploring your body or your partner's body with really gentle, attentive touch. You slow down, you're present, and you really focus on those sensations that come up.
So instead of rushing through things, you're like really savoring each moment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Dr. Brotto really emphasizes the importance of self-compassion during all of this. Like if your mind wanders during these exercises, and it's going to happen, just gently guide it back without judging yourself. Okay,
That makes me feel better. I think it's easy to get discouraged when you're trying to be mindful, and those thoughts just keep popping up.
Oh, for sure. It's all part of the process. Mindfulness is a practice, and like any skill, it takes time and patience. It's about approaching it with curiosity and a sense of playfulness, you
Yeah.
know?
That makes sense. But a lot of people struggle with sexual difficulties. Can mindfulness really help with things like low desire or performance anxiety?
That's a great question. And the answer is yes. Mindfulness can be so helpful in addressing those common challenges. It helps you shift your focus to the present moment and reduces all those worries about the past or future, the things that can really sabotage intimacy.
So instead of getting caught up in those negative thoughts, you're more focused on what's happening right now with your partner.
Exactly. For example, if someone is experiencing discomfort during sex, instead of tensing up or judging themselves or trying to ignore it, Dr. Brotto suggests using the body scan to observe that discomfort mindfully. Don't judge it, just notice it. This can help you develop a more accepting relationship with your body, reduce anxiety, and maybe even lessen the intensity of the discomfort.
Wow, that's interesting. So you're not letting that discomfort control you, you're just acknowledging it.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And when it comes to performance anxiety, mindfulness can really make a huge difference. When you focus on the present, on those sensations, the connection with your partner, you're less likely to get stuck in those anxious thoughts about performance.
So mindfulness helps you become more aware of your thoughts and feelings, but not let them like run the show.
Yeah, exactly. It's about being present and engaged, even when you're feeling challenged.
What I really appreciate about Dr. Brotto's approach is that she doesn't just focus on the physical stuff. She talks a lot about the importance of emotional intimacy, too.
Oh, absolutely. She really emphasizes that mindfulness can be incredibly powerful in building a deeper connection and trust with your partner.
So how do we use mindfulness to create that kind of intimacy? Like, what does that actually look like?
Well, one way is through mindful communication. It's about really listening to your partner without judgment, being present with them and expressing your needs and desires openly and honestly.
It sounds like that's just a good recipe for any healthy relationship, not just a healthy sex life.
That's true. And Dr. Brotto also suggests practicing loving kindness meditation. Have you ever tried that?
I've heard of it, but I haven't really tried it. What's the idea behind it?
It involves cultivating feelings of love and compassion. You start by sending warmth and compassion to yourself, and then you kind of extend those feelings outward to others. Imagine sending that warmth and compassion to yourself and then extending it to your partner. Feeling that connection, it can really enhance those feelings of love and connection.
It's beautiful. You're intentionally creating a space of love and acceptance.
Exactly. Dr. Brotto also talks about synchronized breathing.
Synchronized breathe. Okay, now I'm really curious.
So picture this. You and your partner are sitting together, breathing in sync, feeling that sense of unity and connection. It's a really powerful way to create a shared experience of presence and intimacy.
Wow, that sounds incredible. It's like you're literally breathing together.
It really highlights how mindfulness goes beyond the bedroom. It can impact your whole relationship.
This is all so fascinating. I never realized that something as simple as paying attention could have such a huge impact on our sex lives and relationships. But how do we actually make mindfulness part of our daily lives when we're so busy?
Well, that's where the real beauty of mindfulness comes in. It's not about adding another thing to your to-do list. It's about shifting your mindset and being present in those little moments throughout the day.
So instead of scheduling time for it, it's more about sprinkling those mindful moments into our routine.
Exactly. Think about when you're stuck in traffic or rushing around feeling stressed. What if instead you just took a few mindful breaths, noticing the rise and fall of your chest?
I can see how that would help center you.
Right, you're reclaiming those little moments and bringing in awareness. Even something like savoring your coffee, really paying attention to the taste, that can be a mindfulness practice.
Or taking a moment to appreciate nature when you're walking.
Exactly. And the more you do these things, the easier they become. It's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
And as that mindfulness muscle gets stronger, it becomes easier to be present, even when things are tough.
You got it. You build resilience. The more you practice mindfulness, the better you'll handle anything, including those times when it's hard to connect with your partner.
That's so true. Life throws a lot at us. Sometimes it's hard to turn off those worries and be present with your partner, even when you're trying to be intimate.
Oh, absolutely. We all have those moments. But mindfulness gives you the tools to deal with those challenges. It's about recognizing those stressful thoughts and feelings without letting them take over.
So instead of getting carried away by anxiety, you learn to just observe it and come back to the present moment.
Exactly. You create this space where you can observe those thoughts and emotions without getting totally lost in them. And that can really change your sex life.
I can see how that would apply to challenges in the bedroom, too. If you can be aware of difficult emotions or sensations without judgment, it could be really helpful.
Absolutely. It's all about creating space for acceptance and understanding for yourself and your partner. And speaking of acceptance, I want to go back to Dr. Brotto's focus on self-compassion. Why do you think that's so important, especially when it comes to sexuality?
Well, the bedroom can be a place where a lot of insecurities come up, you know? It's easy to compare yourself to others or feel like you're not good enough.
You're so right. We are bombarded with images of perfect bodies and relationships, and that makes it hard to feel good about ourselves. But self-compassion helps. It's about being as kind and understanding to yourself as you would be to a friend who's struggling.
So we can learn to be gentle with ourselves instead of being so critical.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we're all imperfect. Our flaws are part of what make us unique.
That takes the pressure off trying to be perfect.
Right. You can just embrace who you are.
And when you can do that, it becomes easier to be open with your partner.
Exactly. Vulnerability is so important for intimacy. And Dr. Brotto reminds us that self-compassion is a practice. It's a conscious choice to treat yourself with kindness every day.
So how do we practice self-compassion? What can we actually do?
It starts with paying attention to your inner critic, that voice that judges you. Notice when it comes up. And instead of listening to it, try to be curious about it. Ask yourself if those thoughts are helpful, if they're kind, if they're even true.
So we challenge those negative thoughts and try to be more supportive of ourselves.
Exactly. And remember that everyone struggles with this. It's normal.
This is all so powerful. Mindfulness isn't just about sex, it's about feeling good about yourself and having a better life.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And that's what makes Dr. Brotto's work so great. She's helping us learn and grow.
It's a journey that can lead to more pleasure, more intimacy, and more happiness.
Absolutely. And it all starts with paying attention to our thoughts, our feelings, and the world around us.
Well said. Speaking of paying attention, I think it's time to shift our focus to something else Dr. Brotto talks about, making mindful sexuality part of our everyday lives. We'll get into that right after this.
Sounds good.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Before the break, we were talking about self-compassion and how important it is for a good sexual experience. But how do we actually make this mindfulness stuff part of our daily lives?
That's a great question. And it doesn't have to be this big commitment or anything. Mindfulness is about those small moments throughout the day when you choose to be present.
So it's not like I have to schedule in mindfulness time.
No, not at all. Think about your day. You're in traffic, you're stressed, you're rushing. What if, instead of letting those feelings take over, you take a few mindful breaths? Just feel that air going in and out.
Yeah, I can see how that could help you feel more grounded.
Exactly. You're bringing awareness to those little moments, even simple things, like when you have your morning coffee, really savor it, pay attention to the taste. That can be mindfulness too.
Or like when you're out walking. Take a moment to appreciate what you see around you.
Yes. It's all about bringing that awareness to everyday things. And it gets easier the more you do it. It's like working out a muscle.
Right, you build up your mindfulness muscle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the stronger it gets, the easier it is to be present, even when things are hard.
Okay, that makes sense. But let's be honest, life is stressful. Sometimes it's really hard to just shut off those worries and be present with your partner.
It's true. We all have those moments.
Yeah.
But mindfulness gives you tools to work through that. It's about recognizing those stressful feelings, but not letting them control you.
So you don't get totally overwhelmed by anxiety. You learn to just notice it and come back to the moment.
That's the idea. You're creating that space for yourself where you can just observe what's happening without getting lost in it. And that can really have a positive impact on your sex life.
I can see how that would help in the bedroom, too. If you can be aware of those tough feelings or sensations, but not judge yourself for them, that could make things so much easier.
You're absolutely right. It's about creating a space for acceptance and understanding both for yourself and with your partner. And, this makes me think about what Dr. Brotto said about self-compassion. Why do you think that's so important for a healthy sex life?
Well, I think in the bedroom, it's really easy to feel insecure. We compare ourselves to other people and feel like we don't measure up.
Yeah, that's such a good point. We're constantly seeing these images of perfect bodies and relationships. It's hard to feel good about ourselves when we're always comparing. But that's where self-compassion can help. It's about treating yourself with the same kindness you would offer a friend who's struggling.
So we can learn to be more understanding towards ourselves instead of criticizing ourselves all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We all have imperfections,
Hmm.
and they're part of what makes us special.
It feels good to hear that. It takes the pressure off trying to be perfect all the time.
Exactly. You can just be yourself.
And when you can do that, it's easier to let your partner see the real you too.
Absolutely. Vulnerability is so important for building a strong connection. And remember, Dr. Brotto says that self-compassion is a practice. It's something we have to choose to do every day.
So how do we actually practice self-compassion? What are some things we can do?
Start by noticing that inner voice that's always judging you. When you hear it, try to just observe it without getting pulled in. Ask yourself, are these thoughts helpful? Are they kind? Are they even true?
It's about challenging those negative thoughts and replacing them with ones that are more supportive, right?
Exactly. And it's important to remember that you're not alone in this.
Hmm?
We all struggle with self-criticism. It's part of being human.
It really feels like mindfulness can affect so many parts of our lives, not just sex. It's about feeling better about ourselves overall.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Hmm.
And that's what makes Dr. Brotto's work so powerful.
Yeah.
She's encouraging us to learn and grow and become the best versions of ourselves.
It's like a journey toward more pleasure, more intimacy, and a happier life.
That's it. And it all starts with paying attention to our thoughts, feelings, and the world around us.
I love that. Speaking of paying attention, it's time for us to move on to another important part of Dr. Brotto's message. We'll talk about how to cultivate mindful sexuality every single day after a quick break. Stay with us. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been talking about some pretty amazing stuff, like how mindfulness can really transform your sex life and your relationships. It's incredible that just paying attention can make such a big difference.
Yeah, it's all about connecting more deeply with yourself and your partner, right? Being more present and aware and accepting things as they are.
Absolutely. Before the break, we were talking about self-compassion and how it can help us deal with those insecurities we all have, especially when it comes to intimacy. As we wrap up our deep dive into better sex through mindfulness, what's the most important thing you want our listeners to take away from all this?
That's a good question. I think if I had to pick one thing, it would be this. Mindfulness isn't some finish line you cross. It's a journey. It's about always trying to become more present and aware, both in the bedroom and in your everyday life.
That's a great way to put it. It's not about being perfect. It's about the journey itself.
Right. It's about embracing those ups and downs, those times when you're super focused and those times when your mind wanders. It's all part of the process.
And that makes it feel less intimidating, too. Like we can all do this, right?
Exactly. We all have the ability to make our sex lives more mindful and more fulfilling. And we can each go at our own pace.
Dr. Brotto really does a great job of explaining everything so clearly. It doesn't matter if you've never tried mindfulness before, you can still get a lot out of this book.
I totally agree. She gives us all these great tools and insights that anyone can use. But the real transformation happens when we start using these practices in our daily lives.
That's such an important point. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a question. What's one small way you can be more present in your daily life, even outside the bedroom? It doesn't have to be anything big or complicated.
Oh, I love that. There are so many possibilities. It could be as simple as really savoring your morning coffee, feel the warmth of the mug, smell the aroma, taste every sip, or maybe it's putting your phone down when someone's talking to you and really listening to what they have to say, or even just noticing the beauty of nature around you, the way the light hits the trees or the sound of the wind.
Those are all such great examples. It's about finding those little moments throughout the day to pause, take a breath, and connect with yourself and the world around you. Dr. Brotto's work shows us that these small moments can make a huge difference in our lives, especially in our relationships.
Beautifully said. It's all about embracing that journey of mindfulness. Every step you take towards being more aware, every moment you're truly present, brings you closer to a richer, more fulfilling, and more connected life.
I couldn't have said it better myself. And that wraps up our deep dive into better sex through mindfulness. We hope you've enjoyed exploring these ideas with us, and we encourage you to keep learning about mindfulness and see how it can change your life in all sorts of amazing ways.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. Until next time, keep diving deep, keep exploring, and keep your minds open to all the possibilities out there.